Hello, my name's Emma Fitchett. I'm the founder of the School of Natural Esoterics.
And hello, I'm Paul Martin Strode, plant spirit healer, remote healing, and flower essence producing. That,
And thank you.
sorry.
Welcome, Paul. So, we are going to introduce to you today our upcoming forum, our dialectic platform, where we are going to dive into the understanding and the teachings and the potentials of co-creating with spirit people from the other world. But what we wanted to do today is just introduce you to the subject where we are debating when we understand and connect to these beings, who are we exactly connecting to? Because there is a theory that the veils are thinning, isn't it, Paul? That it's really
Mm.
it's a lot easier to connect to the other world. It's a lot easier to connect to these beings. So, A, who are they? Are we interpreting their existence through our kind of pre-programming that we've had from folklore, from the labels we've been given? Who are they?
Mm.
And also, like, how come we're able to connect to them much easier? So, yeah, so that's my kind of, shall we start with like, who are they and the labels? Like, we've inherited these labels of the Fae, perhaps the elves, and all of these different beings within those umbrella terms as well. But in our experience, I'm finding, and I know you are too, 'cause this is why we're doing this kind of opening this discussion and this conversation, is that I think they're more than that. They seem to be more than just these kind of like these folkloric beings, these mythological beings. They seem to be evolving with us as well. And so because we're in a completely different mindset now to in today than we were when those folkloric mythologies and tales were written, can we kind of do you think we should kind of reevaluate what we're actually talking about, who we're actually connecting to, so we can have a bit more of a realistic and modernist approach
Yeah.
to this subject? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, and I mean that's why we're putting on the 3 days and the workshop, and this is what this promotion is about. But it's almost like there is such a thirst for us humans to reconnect with nature in a ceremonial, sacred way, and it's almost like all of those bridges, or many of those bridges, have been burnt through the Abrahamic religions or the big religions that take so much of a center stage in life. And also, from our mythology, isn't it? That, the fairy realm and off with the fairies and all of these different aspects. And we potentially, broadly speaking, see fairies as like Tinkerbell and things like this. So how do we approach that realm? How do we work with that? And I feel that that veil, whether it's thinning or whether it's not, or whether it's always been present in that way, that thickness. I know definitely up here in Bonnie, Scotland, in the Highlands, there's an old Celtic saying that the veil is thin, or it's thin up here, and I certainly feel that with the connection of the nature spirits and aspects of connecting with nature. But maybe there's this longing, this pining deep inside our souls to reconnect more deeply with nature. Looking at our lifestyles and our modern lifestyles and our modern spirituality, if we can call the sort of Abrahamic religions modern compared to what we're presenting, these old aspects of our connection with nature that go so deep, that our ancestors, that our very DNA, the very epigenetics that comes through. And so maybe there's this deep call that's reaching through from our ancestors to say, remember, make these bridges again with nature. And I think there's a thirst for our psyches, with all our concrete blocks and all our Wi-Fi's and all of our social media, that seems to be separating ourselves and maybe taking us away from that veil. But I think maybe that veil thinning is maybe a calling to remember, to remember our ancestors' ways and to build those bridges and rekindle our connection with nature. And this is very much what our presentation is going to be about, is to look at this and to challenge this, like you say, in a dialectic way. So, to wrestle whether, do the elves and the fairies exist as we know it traditionally, or what is a more modern day term, and can we even offer a modern day term, with something that is so rich from our ancestors?
I mean, there is this debate, isn't there, that what you see on the inner planes, or what you see in the other world, or what you see in other kind of dimensions, if you want to call them that, is contextual. So it is you meet what you've been programmed to meet.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
as a Celtic person, I'm going to meet Celtic beings, or Celtic beings, spirits, deities associated with my tradition.
Mhm.
But that doesn't always run, that doesn't always run true, because there there have been experiences that I've had in the Amazon jungle where particular beings, yes, they're perceived the same by everybody in the group, whether they were Amazonian or European, slight differences, but it had these beings, these spirits had within them their own inherent agency, their own objective reality. And so how do we break that apart for when we're encountering these beings from our own underworld, from our own otherworld, or from this world that seems to kind of parallel ours? If we just shift our frequency, if we just shift our kind of turn the radio dial.
Yeah, yeah, our attunement.
Yeah. And so who are we encountering? And so this is, it's a huge subject area.
Yeah.
But I think it's so valid today because, and this brings me on to this veil thinning. So you mentioned about in the Highlands the veils are thin. Well, when I lived in Wales, it was the same. I could perceive and sense spirits and nature spirits much easier than here in England. And and even though I live in the countryside in England, there just seems to be a difference in the kind of like the permeability of that veil in
Mm,
different parts of the British Isles. Is it that there's actually a permeability, a difference in
mm,
permeability, or is it our consciousness
mm.
that creates that? So in the Highlands, your consciousness is open because it's not a great deal of kind of like urbanization, so you live out where, your mind can be very expansive. The same in Wales, very underinhabited. And so not a great deal of kind of concentration of people. And so your mind can be much more open. Whereas in England, we are kind of so, there's a lot of Wi-Fi, there's a lot of content, people live much closer together. And so that our consciousness therefore is a little bit more shut down.
Yeah, that kind of collect.
Yeah, is it that the veils are actually thinning, or is it that it's us? We are the ones who created the veil in the first place,
Yeah,
perhaps,
yeah, yeah,
by fixating on the physical world, industrialization, etc.
yeah.
And therefore, in these times when a lot of people are expanding their consciousness through plants, through different spiritual practices, is it that we are opening that veil ourselves?
Yeah, you know what? I think we're going to be finding that we've got more questions than answers in this. But I think this is the important thing that it's to go into. Is it those words? I mean, words are spells, aren't they? They almost support, but almost can tear down what it is that we're talking about. Consciousness. I mean, is that local? Is it non-local? Even the very word consciousness maybe disrupts what we're trying to build in this connection with them, or into the other worlds. Maybe that word, the other world, is maybe I don't want to say outdated, but this aspect of, when we look at quantum nowadays, I think when we bring the quantum aspects, it's so reflective of what the ancestors experienced anyway. But all these different frequencies, all these different frequencies, and I like this idea, as you mentioned, about us being radio sets. and that we can tune into these aspects. But there is such a plethora, such a huge amount of different frequencies. How do we find our way? How do we find our way in through that? And I think the what the ancestors have done is laid out these paths in that sort of the forest of psychic, wilderness, as it were, that we can follow, and almost maybe is really important to navigate our way through these different frequencies. Or almost like a record playing, and that is life. That the actual record itself is life itself. But wherever we put the needle is what music we hear, what groove we listen to. And I'm playing with this idea is that, this aspect of us being radio sets and frequencies, and how can we tune into those grooves? It's almost like our intention is placing the needle on the record, and then it's imagination, our focus, our presence into that world. So maybe there isn't a truth per se. We're so hung up on truth, aren't we? The one way, it's very Abrahamic. But maybe on that record of life, that there is many different attunements, but it's our focus, our ability to be able to place that needle in the record to then jam with the music that we're hearing, those tunes, that frequency in that place. So I think that there's this massive upshift, isn't there, of quantum understanding, quantum entanglement, when we connect with flowers to make flower essences, that entanglement, that beautiful entanglement of connecting with a flower and the spirit of a flower, and in that beautiful ceremony to transmit and to entrain with that frequency to make that essence, is a beautiful experience. And I think there is this calling, or I think maybe this thirst again, like I said earlier, that we are almost desperate, that the human psyche and our collective consciousness is, I laugh, but almost nervously, is in trouble. This disconnect, this discord between ourselves and reality, and to almost ignore and make into make believe what our ancestors did. I mean, listen, we've got attunements with our work, right? We do remote healing amongst many other things, but the remote healing is a reflection of our radio sets, isn't it? And if we're able to tune into these frequencies, I almost want to step back from realms and other worlds, though I appreciate their guiding points, to really drop into that aspect where we can use more modern day language like quantum entanglement and things like that to really focus in and build this relationship again. The human psyche, the human collective consciousness, as we all know, everyone listening to this, is struggling. And I think we need to remember our roots. We need to walk through that veil and find new ways. And this is partly what we're doing, isn't it? To try and wrestle with the old ways to see if we can digest it and bring it into a modern day term. So the average bod can connect with nature in a way that is not necessarily as concentrated as we, but we know that our work with them, with the Fae, the She, nature spirits, and fine-tuning our radio sets has made it even stronger. So it's almost like it's a fitness, isn't it, with
Mm.
regards to what we do?
Yeah, and I love the fact that both you and I have been exploring this kind of realm, this working with these with spirit people and nature spirits and plant spirits for so many years, but from different perspectives. And
Yeah.
when we have conversations and come together, it's like you said, there's not one way to play the record. There's many grooves on that record. I love that
Mm.
metaphor. And so we invite people into our world to explore for themselves what kind of mechanism they might work for them to actually open those doorways for themselves. And one area that I've been looking at, and which is day two of our forum, and which I think is I think it's a lost body of work, but I also think that it is re-emerging now, and that the plant spirits are teaching us this, in that the plant spirits are introducing us to other nature spirits to work in this kind of triad,
Mm,
other nature spirits or other spirit people to work in a triad, because it's not that two minds are better than one, it's actually three minds are better than one, and we can create this kind of like almost like a portal into realms through the combined energetics, through the combined frequencies of human, plant spirit, and nature spirit, or human, plant spirit, and spirit person. And what I found through that is that a healing potential is just opened up to a much vaster potentiality,
mm,
um, that that these beings will therefore help to attune me better to them, and so there's much more teaching going on, there's much more guidance, there's much more of evolution between all three of us, or all learning from each other, bouncing up from each other, and just kind of, yeah, evolving together. And I think
mm,
this is such a I think I'm sure that our ancestors, if the plant spirits are teaching me in this way, then I'm sure our ancestors learnt in this way. And that's what this forum's about, looking at what can we take from our ancestral heritage, but what do we need to bring in, like, from ourselves as we have evolved, as we have unfolded in our spiritual progression, perhaps, or advanced in our healing professions. What do we leave in the past, and what do we allow to flourish in the future, or in the present rather?
yeah, no, I agree, and that's the opening, isn't it? Or the remembering of our ancestors and our past. I know what really tickles me is, like, the aspects that I was when you proposed that we do this work together. I was sharing with you the experience that I had with nature spirits, and it just seemed so timely. Your Word document was still open, with regards to inviting this new relationship or old relationship back with nature and this remembering. Um, but these and also trying to use different terms of phrase to make it easier to make those bridges, make those friendships. Other world. I mean, it's what potentially this is what we're calling the course, isn't it? And the debate. I mean, what are the other worlds? It almost feels a bit scary to think that you might go to another world, and what happens if I don't come back? And there is huge amounts of sort of literature from the past that people have disappeared, and in mythology and things like that. But I hope that through our talk that people will understand that we may well need to look at what we think is scary and what is dark, and that fear aspect of approaching these things that has done a very good job in separating us. And all manner of words could come out of my mouth right now about that process. But I think that this is why it's so important to almost not know what it is that we are tuning into, to have I don't want to say more authentic, but to bring. I mean, so many times I've gone into those places not knowing anything about it, and then when I speak to you, you've already read about that, or there's literature about it, or there's things like with Slipper Orchid that you and I have both experienced. The same interactiveness and the same aspects, the same character. And so that gives us real gravitas to the work that we're doing to bring this information forward that we can still navigate without necessarily having to have lots and lots of knowledge. Or it's almost, yes, knowledge is important, but it's almost that if we can put that on the bench and learn or understand, remember the ways of stepping through that veil, or that almost feels like it's scary again. I like this aspect of this attunement. How can we help others almost do what we do, but at least start to rekindle the friendship that we feel people so deeply need, and we feel that people are really reaching out for that right now. So that's what we want to share, isn't it? That's what we want to kind of invite. And it's an open forum, right? People will be able to put their pennies worth in and to enter the dialectic conversation and wrestle in a healthy way with, what is real and what isn't, and
Mm.
what's your experience. And because may like we said, maybe there isn't truth. It's all perspective. It's perception. Maybe that information, wherever we put the needle on the record, it's that tune to us, to our song. We know that very much through working with the flower essences. Bluebell has very much taught us that and shown that they'll tune in with these frequencies. If you speak French, it will speak French. If
Mm.
I speak English, how it knows, has it got a translation app? But there's more to it, and I think there's a magic and this co-creative aspect that you were talking, this triad of humans and then nature, and then this aspect of nature spirits as well. This co-creative aspects that I always feel like my ancestors reaching out of my tummy now, going like, "We did that," you know. So I think on some level, our psyches, our human collective psyche consciousness is calling us to do this work, is calling us to have this discussion and inviting people to have the courage to muster up their bandwidths and tune into them and step into the fold, back into the emerald green heart of nature.
Oh, beautiful. I love how you're so poetic in your within your love of nature.
It's the bard in me.
But yeah, we're inviting people who have perhaps had experiences or work with beings or spirits, so the
Yeah.
fae, plant spirits, etc., into the conversation. And also people who are really curious and really interested and want to have that deeper connection and that relationship. And so we're going to be exploring from our perspective what it takes to do that, from other people's, from other participants' perspectives, what it took them to do that, but also, is it getting easier? What are the doorways into that world, and what are the kind of like the ethics, the protocols that people can kind of use and work with to ensure that we stay in this right relationship. So I'm
Hmm.
really looking forward to this forum and can't wait to get dialectic with you. Um, so for anybody watching, you can join Paul and myself at www.naturalesoterics.com, no, naturalesoterics.org/the-otherworld. I'll put it down here as well. Link in the comments and the video description. So thanks, Paul. Thank you for your time. Looking
Oh,
forward to seeing you in September.
yeah, looking forward to seeing you too, and everyone else who's going to come along. Please do. Looking forward to hearing your questions and having this open debate and sharing some stories.
Beautiful. Thank you.